Welcome to another episode of Come Together.
Pat. Yeah, in an apartment building, you always get to, because there's 100 people, see your Wi-Fi. Oh, fine.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers. All right.
Fine. Dude, I needed, what do you call it? I needed this to be a one of those talking things out podcasts rather than I think so. It started. I got some guy texted me while we were all going back and forth on our chat about Venezuela the other day. He's like, dude, I would love to hear Pacey. I'd love to hear you and Pacey record a conversation about this.
About Venezuela.
And then I literally texted you. You're like, yeah, I'm down, dude.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, all this stuff is fun. What's fun is keeping up. And
you good?
Yeah, this was almost over fizzed.
Oh, because you get a little air when you drink beer.
Yeah, I didn't do that. But yeah, man, there was so many different things that I felt like we always talk about in the group, and it's so much better to just like have a conversation about and let it all breathe. Like our walk to Kiddush the other week.
Also, I feel like we always have this idea that everyone, like, I always at least think that some of the points I say are kind of obvious, but then you'll see, and like you see a lot of people online who are like, no, I don't mean it like, I don't mean it. And so I'm saying like most people are just kind of going about their lives, and that's why it's cool when people put pieces together. Like you'll instinctively notice, like Jordan Peterson was good at that originally at the very beginning. He was like, here's a lot of stuff that like we all kind of know, but no one's been able to kind of like word it correctly.
Yeah.
And he came out and said a lot of that stuff. And obviously later on you could say he is playing with ideas more and maybe he's a little more abstract or whatever. But those original ideas were pretty neat.
Yeah, and I bet it's because he's been working on them. Like he's been working on them
40 years.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got to come up with new content, and you're like,
and you see how hard, and you see how adding original stuff to conversation.
It's so hard. That's why I stopped listening to Ben Shapiro at a certain point. And not in a way, because it's funny. I mean, I probably disagree with him more now than I ever have. But especially when I was in college, and I was a creative writing literature major, and I was surrounded exclusively by like far left people. And it's funny because I wasn't ever exposed to politics, so I didn't even know what that was. Like I didn't know what any of that meant, and I would just hear a lot of people in my English classes trying to explain their perspective, and very little of it actually made very much sense. So I was like, well, if this is politics, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb that everyone's kind of worked up about this.
Yeah.
And then Ben Shapiro at that point was really like
absolutely
going through campuses and like just really. He was so grounded and so evidence-based and just going scorched earth on people, and obviously
on bad ideas.
Lazy ideas.
At worst, at
not
best,
thought out.
Lazy, at worst, bad. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah. And he just did such a good job. He'd just go around from campus to campus, and his videos were huge. And everyone, I'm sure you used to watch those videos. It'd be like a 45-minute video of Ben Shapiro.
That was our when we were coming up. That was it. I mean,
that was the Charlie Kirk at the time.
Yeah, he was the Charlie.
And you know who else, dude, who popped up randomly on Tucker's podcast the other week? Milo Yiannopoulos, dude.
Oh my gosh, remember him?
He almost came to Binghamton. My friend Chaim Engelman almost got him to come to Binghamton at the time. And then I think he got canceled as he was about to like join, or maybe the university flipped out or something like that.
Well, because he
was on his flaming, what do you call it? His flaming fag tour, whatever you call it.
Yeah, he was a like provocateur, but it was weird because we had words for things that we don't word now. Like I don't know if he called himself a provocateur, but he certainly said things purposely in a provocative way, and he was so. And I don't know if his ideas always fit together, but like 70% of it was that like initial stuff everyone could. So it's like cool, and obviously he was gay but a conservative, so he had like a niche.
He's a rage baiter,
and he was a rage before he had rage baiting. He was flamboyant. He was an incredibly
unique,
and as far as an entertainer,
yeah.
I mean how do you beat that kind of entertainment?
No,
but then he got. I think it was politically he got that. You know what's so funny? Every time people try to silence. That's what we want to talk about free speech. Every time people try to silence voices, it never goes the way you want. So you got Milo out of the. I'm not. By the way, I disagree with almost everything. Let's be very, very. He's down for an ethno state, Christian nationalism. Like,
is he?
Like, yeah. I mean, because now he
This
again,
is
someone
comeback.
like
This
that,
is comeback.
he knows what he needs to do. When he lost his audience, he said he's no longer gay. And that's something he said. And he went and
Yeah, he said that whole thing on Tucker. It was the whole episode is about him trying to not be gay.
And he went to a Christian kind of angle. And the only ironically, now
you can see it's so contradictory to his nature. Like,
well, yeah, but he's trying to survive in a world where the thing to be provocative, the thing he was doing was snagged, and so he pivoted. Listen, you got to respect the effort, but yeah.
I was thinking recently, it's so interesting that guys like Lex Friedman and Huberman and Rogan have like kind of catapulted to like this like really historic level of exposure and influence, and in a way that like in the past may have been delegated to musicians or political leaders, or like they have taken like such an intense. I really think a big part of why alcohol consumption has been so down in general is because Rogan quit drinking and talks about it, and Huberman has been never really drank and always said like drink what you will if you want to, but here's what you're doing to yourself. Just be aware of what you're doing to yourself.
That's true. I remember that. Remember that episode came out.
Huge episode.
Multiple people I know were just
huge.
Like,
I didn't drink for like 6 months after that. I did not drink. I severely limited my drinking for like 6 months after that. but the point is that. And what I would imagine is that throughout history, at least throughout American history, but I think throughout history in general, the people that are going through the hardest times are the people that become the most creatively fertile and the most trailblazing, I guess, in a certain sense, right? The reason why the blues were so great in the 60s was because that was like the peak at that point, or I guess the conscious peak, where it was so close to we're so close to rights for the Black community and so far from it, and like you could taste the freedom. You were right there, and then the blues come out of that, and soul comes out of that, and jazz comes out of that, and I think that
the spirit of that
oppression, of that, and the fighting back, for sure,
and the fighting back is in the best way possible, the suffering in the worst way, of course.
Yeah, and I think it's become so cool to have rejected conventional values that people that have conventional values, like yourself and myself, feel like they're like it feels weird. Like I don't assume that people are like interested in getting married or having families or having kids, and like it almost feels like you're part of a club if you're like if you believe in the nuclear family. Like it's such a cast aside. It's not portrayed in Hollywood. It's not portrayed in music. It's not really portrayed in culture. Everything's about individuality and freedom by untethering yourself from responsibility, as opposed to freedom from building responsibility.
It's funny. I was just actually like going down a rabbit hole. I mean, it's an obvious one, but you always hear, obviously, and you hear about, Judaism is a box, but life is a series of restrictions, and that is freedom. And you go back to like, and these are like the cliche, or Socrates, Aristotle, right? Everyone always mentions them, no one else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go back to philosophers, that's my point. It's like
Plato, Aristotle, Socrates.
It's like faux philosophy, or like super intellectual. There's a great quote by the Plato. No, but all of the people of that time, we think of the mission statement of the Enlightenment, all these things, was individuality, and it was adding individualism to a world that did, you could argue, need some level of individualism at a time when people's ability to express themselves. Today, if you look at the 25% of the world doesn't have basic human rights and free speech. It's almost like abhorrent.
But way more than 25% does not have free speech. Way more than 25% of the world.
Well, I think it was back when I looked this up. It was 24%.
But think about this: China,
which is still, by the way,
China has a one out of people does not have free speech.
True. No, but I'm saying a quarter of people is if you think about it.
It's
one out
crazy.
of 4 people on this planet.
Cannot say what they think.
Like these are the people that just can't. Like inarguably, and then you have countries where it's like half and half. Like whatever. But they talk about, it used to be the idea of, in old philosophy, it was not the shedding of all responsibility. It was the idea was you should be allowed to shed whatever you have. But part of that moral equation was you still have a moral affirmative duty to put together a framework of your own, or you and your colleagues or your community.
Sure.
So you can't. It's not just shed this stuff and just leave it alone. I think that's why you see a lot of people now, like the Charlie Kirk stuff, where it's like, yeah, well, we want a framework, and it's like the government's not going to give you a framework. And I'm very,
and the
very
government's
grateful that
framework will be itself often. Like the government is the highest goal, the highest value, the highest, the big brother of society, as opposed to something like God, or as opposed to something like community or traditional values, even your own family, dude. Like people have much more invested in what the government has to say than what their family has to say.
Yeah, which is wild when you think about it. It's just it's.
Yeah, and so I think you're right. We've spent so long as a culture, and by the way, I showed my high school students the Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, oh, that's right. We're talking about
phenomenal movie, and
you had seen it. Yeah,
I have seen it.
Yeah. Who didn't see? Someone we know has seen it.
Sure, I don't think she was on it.
Call him out.
Figure it out. Yeah, but. I mean, the fundamental dynamic of that movie is the misunderstanding between the adult authorities and the children who want to express themselves. And Robin Williams is the person that says, listen, like to be in a Shakespeare play, you have to be great in a Shakespeare play, you have to be enormously talented. You have to put time in for your lines. You have to do the work through the Shakespeare. You have to translate to yourself, for yourself, what Shakespeare is trying to say as the actor of it. I mean, I don't know if you ever taken a Shakespeare class in college, but you're an English major. You had to have, right?
Yeah,
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, you can watch 5 different plays of Much Ado About Nothing, and every single one of them is so fundamentally different from one another just by the way that we perform. I mean, that's the reason why when you read a script. So, but anyway, the point. So this movie was about how a kid wants to act, and his dad doesn't let him, and says, "No, you got to be responsible." Like, to shut down greatness, creativity, and affinity towards the humanities and the arts is obviously so wrong. But to go all the way the other way, to say to pursue the arts to the extent that there is no responsibility and there is no community,
also a problem.
Absolutely. It's awful. And I think that's where we are. And so I think the reason why, full circle, why things like Rogan and Huberman and Lex Friedman are so popular is because they're people that are not afraid to first of all, they don't self-censor, and they say things like, we want family values. We respect, Rogan respects his family and his privacy, and Huberman talks about how he wants to have, get married and have a family. And like, even if you've been following Huberman's podcast for a couple of years and you notice things like his dad is on, and he always talked about how he had a complicated relationship with his dad, and then to have him on is like, you can feel for him as the audience, hey, I'm cheering on a father and a son repairing a difficult, obviously a relationship that was difficult and tense. And I want to do that. That's beautiful. That's inspiring. As opposed to, I know people that have written college thesis papers on why you should never talk to your family again if they're unhealthy. And like, what you going to do?
Yeah. No, I think these are extreme. I think it's just, life is just can be very tumultuous and complicated. And trying to reduce it down to I think in general, we won't talk about I think people are just trying to reduce things down to its simplest form because it's bite size. Mm-hmm. I remember my father had a funny line because my father wrote many books and a successful therapist, specifically in marriage and divorce. And he had this joke. Obviously, it was a joke because he loved writing, he loved great ideas. But he said, he's like, I don't know why I write these substantive books that teach you real lessons and tell you about the hard work you can do to repair a relationship or make the relationship satisfying. He's like, I don't know why I'm doing that when I could just write a 50-page wish it, want it, do it, right? Like he always joked about that. Yeah. Like he would,
and he'd probably sell more.
That's what that was the joke. But he didn't want to do that because you could. I mean, the reason he's very good at what because he genuinely loves helping people, and he has the emotional intelligence for it, the IQ for it. He's just very good at it. But
that translated into the way that he raised you guys. Like you could see that he was very conscientious about parenting.
Very conscientious,
and you could pick that up as his kid.
Yeah, and more and more as you got older, right?
Yeah,
as a 5-year-old, I just see, wow, my father's he's listening to me, like whatever. But no, we've talked about it. I even did a little video with him, but where it's not like just about listening, but understanding where someone comes from. And I think like the world has so much gray in it. If you just understand where someone's coming from, you'd be shocked how much
90% of the work.
How much of the work that that gets you. Yeah. It's just it's almost you'd almost wouldn't believe it unless you like really try, because then you realize everyone's, and that's I think I'll talk about Ben. I think Ben Shapiro's mistake recently was kind of leaving that doctrine where he always, I think Peterson said that. He said, you always have to assume that the person's coming to the table really means it, right? You can't assume a bad faith actor, or you won't ever engage in that. It'll just shut down. You always have to assume the person's being authentic. And I'm just realizing one of the issues maybe today is that everyone's with all the rage bait, you're mixing up the comedy and the authenticity, and it's fun. Listen, I'm not saying it's not good fun, but if you can't really parse it out, then if you try to hold someone to it and they dance around it because, that was a joke I said on stream. Maybe that's why it becomes difficult.
By the way, but even if that happens, that does clarify and repair the damage. It does repair the damage. And it does, I think, for example, like the Dave Smith, Nick Fuentes debate or conversation, rather, podcast, where Dave was like, dude, like, you really think that there weren't 6 million Jews killed? He's like, nah. He goes, I'm not gonna. You gonna push me in that? And I'll be like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't care enough to like make this statement. So, am I gonna be inclined to like say something outrageous? Yeah. And then if I'm pressed on it, will I change my mind? Sure. Like, it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. And I think that we need more of those type of hills that I'm willing to die on. And like, and then you prove a bad idea to be a bad idea, and then all his listeners presumably will understand, like, oh, well, like, if that's not a hill we're willing to die on, we're not going to die on that hill. You know, and you're like, oh, that's great. So that's the value of the conversation.
Yeah, and if you let everyone just talk, I don't know, like, it's just so obvious. Like you speak about, like, one of the things about like freedom of speech is like, besides all of the ACLU work that was done with, trying to protect Nazis' right to
speak and to march.
There's a great article from 2021. I remember it because it was Wall Street Journal. They were, I think, celebrating
one of the last good articles they wrote recently.
2020. They wrote about an 80-year-old ACLU Jewish lawyer. It wasn't the main guy. I'm forgetting his name. Okay. I apologize. I said the article. I just remember it vividly, and it's him at this like celebration on behalf of him, and he's sitting there at the ACLU event, and all the new attorneys, all these young, and as a lawyer, I understand where they're coming from ambition-wise. They're playing in the world they were given, right? They don't want to defend Nazis. Yeah. They don't want to defend white supremacists. They want to defend, they want to do the SJW. They want to do that quote unquote good work. Mm-hmm. And so they're doing speeches where they're saying, and we're proud because it's different branches like each state. We're proud to have defended this group, and not this group. And the article goes through this guy's like almost horror at like, this isn't a defense of free speech. Yeah. This is advocacy. And this is like a nightmare. And we're not, excuse my French, we're not bullshitting here. Like the AI is coming. Like are we here to preserve people's ability to say whatever they want, whenever they want, without persecution of government? Or are we not? And either you believe in the people's ability
within 10 years, we're not, I don't think.
That's the worry. Yeah.
I think that we're already kind of not there, but I think that, here's what I think. I think that all the information is being consumed and recorded and stored. I think that if it were acted on and the people that were collecting information, by the way, again, and, there was such a great explanation for this quote unquote deep state, which is the equivalent, and such a great example, metaphor of a renter and an owner, and the top positions are within any kind of government bureaucracy. There tend to be renters. They're there for 4-year terms, 2-year terms sometimes. Yeah. And then and because the people on top, the Tulsi Gabbards, the RFKs, the Marco Rubios will be done in 4 years from now, and then you move on. But the people two steps below him are losing their jobs.
I think
You're right. But so I think that those people are the people that are saying, hey, we need a tight ship. We need security. America needs to be number one. If, and screw, honestly, and I guess everything always kind of, again, this is a pendulum swinging. Safety equals less freedom inherently.
Yeah, that's
caution.
Tom. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson. Yeah,
which is what one?
The classic. Give a little liberty for a little security. Getting out.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I think that right now there is so much fear, whether it's manufactured or not. That
True.
I think that if it were revealed tomorrow on a mass scale, another Ed Snowden type of situation where the NSA and everyone is in cahoots to spy on all the American citizens, I don't think that many people would be like that upset. I don't think that many people would care that much. I think that a few people would be upset because of principles. And I think that most other people would be like, yeah, I don't want any terrorist attack happening either. And you know what? I don't want the deranged Trump fans or the deranged liberals or deranged anyone coming at me. And so I want FBI to know what they're saying.
I'll do you one better.
Yeah.
That happened. You mentioned Snowden, Edward Snowden. Yeah. Remember when that happened?
Yeah.
I remember when that.
I don't remember that happened. I remember learning about it because I wasn't aware of anything when that.
happened. So the truth is, I remember listen, as a kid, I was very into politics, but
were you as a kid?
Not many people were, but I remember when it's everyone started having it was just read the newspaper and stuff. But I remember Edward Snowden vividly, and it was 2 months of whoa,
yeah,
and then nothing.
Yeah,
and it was business as usual. There's no follow up.
What do you think of him not being
pardoned? Courts were this and that and the other. It was very weird. Oh,
he hasn't been pardoned yet.
I think he lives in Russia.
He does live in Russia. So I've heard someone say, I don't know if I believe it, that part of the cost of living in Russia is trading information, and so you can't pardon him or accept him back.
Oh, because he might have been there too long. It might just be you can't bring him back.
But then the other answer is that he might not want to come back if he's really afraid that he's going to get shot down in the streets. There's going to be justice one way or the other.
His thing is long done. I mean, there's so much. You talk about a news cycle. He hasn't been.
Talk about a news cycle, dude.
Talk about a news cycle. Well, Venezuela. I did a video today that I thought was quite.
Let's hear it.
Well, it was just about I think. So here's the two ways you can look at it. You can look at geopolitics like we were talking in the chat, right? Wild West, where everyone can do anything because, listen, outside of your own sovereign citizens, outside of your own nation, you have your own citizens and you have a police force and you can control whatever. So, but each nation can't really control the other. So we wrote these laws, right?
Quote-unquote international laws.
And we said, you can't do this.
But no one enforces anything.
Yeah, you can't do this. And it's that came out of the idea of listen, can we not nuke each other? Yeah. Because that's mutually assured destruction.
Or if someone holds up their hand and you're the only human being in the neighborhood, let them be prisoner of war.
You say, well, okay, but then if that happens, the rest, besides a handful of things, you could argue that the rest is just political pressure.
Yeah.
Is there enough political pressure to deter? Right, mutually assured destruction is the best deterrent because then it's game over for everyone.
India, Pakistan.
Yeah, so yeah, there. I mean, I don't want to jinx it. It's one pod, one episode.
That's right. The Cosmic Podcast. Who's going to call it the Cosmic Podcast?
Dude, it's gonna be like one of those cinematography moments where it goes through the wire and this podcast gets into the ears of a general in Pakistan. He's like
it's time. The prophecy.
The worst butterfly effect.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to not be involved in any of those, or at least not be conscious of any of the butterfly effects of any of my actions so far, dude. So far. So Venezuela. So you made a video.
So I just did it's about how. So I don't know to what degree. Listen, it could just be. But now America is on record doing the manifest destiny, or I mean, you can say right or wrong. Listen, I also agree to an extent that a country in your backyard, you are the superpower of a continent, and a country in your backyard has more oil, more gold than anyone else, and it's not even one of the big countries. They're doing what they're siphoning it off. Yeah. So you're like, I'll siphon it.
Yeah,
I get that, but Taiwan's up for grabs now.
So. Here is what I heard today on my podcast today. And I've been hearing a lot of this. And I'm not. I've come more around to the attack, or not the attack, but to the kidnapping than
you know what's going on with that.
no.
There's a huge every person who's done a video about this who says the word kidnap, it's like kind of good for the algorithm.
Oh, is
There's
it?
like 300 comments
That's so
saying
funny.
he wasn't kidnapped, he was arrested.
He was
And it's
kidnapped,
just
dude.
that over and over
If you
and
look
over.
at what happened to him,
But there was an arrest warrant. There was an international court. So it's like been good for the algorithm, but it's also like
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. I'm not happy because obviously it creates a precedent, right? That we don't necessarily want to play out. On the other hand, and I wasn't aware of this at the time that I had this original opinion, China and Russia both get enormous amount of natural resources from Venezuela.
I think Iran's also a part of that.
Iran is also part of that. Although Iran has their own, obviously very abundant supply, but a big part of the whole process is actually being able to mine usable good oil. That there's different types of oils apparently, and not all oil is necessarily convertible to energy in the same kind of effective or cheap way that is the oil that we talk about when we say that, buying a barrel of oil. And so Trump, if he was able to, which he pulled off, arrested someone that allegedly had a warrant out for him. Although, again, Netanyahu has a warrant out for him. Can you imagine the explosion that would occur if someone says, hey, you broke a quote-unquote war crime and a court found you guilty and we're going to bring you to justice because you're a quote-unquote terrorist? Like, listen, that is scary because there really are courts that have determined that he's a war criminal. And there are places that he really can't fly to now. And if any of those places decided, hey, you know what, instead of you waiting for you to come to us, we'll do what Trump did, we'll come to you. But put that aside for a minute. No Americans got killed. No American assets got injured or damaged. So there was literally almost no loss of taxpayer dollars as far as the operation goes. You put a massive wedge between China and Russia's practically. Trump just posted right before we started recording this that we're getting 50 million. What is it?
Million I don't know,
barrels of oil at like quote unquote fair market.
We're getting
price.
a lot of oil.
I'm getting a lot. By the way, not marketing, not investing advice, but buy gas, buy Chevron, buy Exxon. But so. We are making enormous. At the end of the day, the question really, to me, for a long time was: does America need to act this way? And the answer right now has become a little bit more clearly, probably. And that becomes the question. And probably does that mean? Do I want 18-year-olds getting shot to death, getting killed in the streets? No. I mean, do I want 20-year-old American troops grabbing Venezuelans out of their homes in suburbs, like what was going on in Iraq, and shooting up families, God forbid, and being traumatized for the rest of their life and creating terrorists? No, of course not. But no one died here. I think there's a couple of Venezuelan deaths from the land strikes.
Yeah, I will say no. So the actual initial attack. Well, I mean, what a wild thing. That's
the
so
whole thing
I
was
mean,
crazy.
We want to talk about. I mean, guys like Dan Carlin who are military historians. I mean, they'll be studying. That's a cool.
You think so?
I think it was very cool. I think that's a wild thing to do. That being said, I just saw. To think that the entire country will be centralized right now, it's you destabilize the country.
That's not.
There's people in certain regions now where there's rogue paramilitary whatever's just kind of roaming the street.
It's power vacuum.
Absolutely, and the person you put in charge is still kind of for Maduro.
Well, there's no one in charge. They're being overseen by Rubio, Hegseth, and one other dude.
Yeah, I just mean it's if it's all said and done, and somehow they're able to stabilize this country fully and get it to a place where the election cycle could happen legitimately, great.
Totally. And by the way, just another step real quickly before just to hop in between. As far as China and Taiwan go, China needs energy to invade Taiwan. China needs energy and gas to function as a society. And if Trump cuts off an enormous percentage, I think Venezuela itself covers like 20 or 30% of the world's oil as far as usable resources go. If you're cutting off 20 or 30% of where China's been getting practically free oil in exchange for the investments that they made in the infrastructure in Venezuela, which they've done, then China's in debt because they put the money into Venezuela, right? So the citizens have to pay the taxes. They were counting on free oil as a compensation for that debt that they were getting, free oil and energy sources. And now that just got cut off while this business transaction is still in the middle of happening. So right now, China, America, basically, I mean, it's the equivalent of if you're in the middle of doing a sale, someone arrests the store owner, and you're like, well, I just paid the guy. And you're like, well, I'm sorry, he's arrested, he's gone, money's gone. So this apparently, allegedly, ostensibly could hold up China's mobility, tactical and military mobility. They're going to continue doing whatever they do with their soft influence and their spy power, and that's what they're best at anyway. But it looks like it could have pushed off or potentially push off a little bit China's invasion of Taiwan.
I think it's possible. Who knows? Listen, for 70 years, they've been nonstop talking about reunification.
And they think big picture too. So 70 years is like nothing.
I mean, it's like the ability for this country to wait a handful of years until another president, another foreign policy, and then take precedent.
They wait 10 presidents.
And
40 years.
I'm not saying that, and that's the point I was making. Is listen, precedent may not matter; it's political power. But if this precedent was, and it might have need to happen anyway, because I agree that Venezuela Venezuela
was not working
siphoning
generally
off
Western
resources and creating a hub of intel. Not puppet state, but a great relationship with your enemies is in your backyard.
Do you know BRICS? Do you know what BRICS is?
But one could say that Taiwan is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, listen, they don't have gold, they don't have oil, but Taiwan is not like number one. They're virtually the only producer of the supercomputers, the chips needed for AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to talk about the most valuable resource on the planet. I mean, those chips have to be
a little bit of oil isn't going to hold you back from getting a ton of chips.
Because they power the 4 ships they need to take the island.
Yeah.
Like
they got billions of people.
Yeah, and you're telling me the only thing they got to do is wait. What is it? What's 12 months times 3? 36 times. What's 36 plus 12? So they got to wait 48 months until Trump's out of office and to see what's the stories, because maybe they're worried he'll go But whatever the case might be, is I don't know if this is the precedent they needed or wanted or whatever, but it does. To some measurable degree, it changes the game.
So I totally get what you're saying. I totally even agree with you. What I would say is, and I had a teacher, a rabbi one time in yeshiva, that used to say, you got to plan your life somewhere between 5 minutes and 5 years from now. He's like, you're too short-sighted, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're too long-sighted, you're never going to make the short-term decisions you need to get you there to that long-term decision. For example, if you want to end up with a six-pack, by the end of the year, right? You got to take a series of short-term steps and decisions that will get you there, And if you think, I have a whole year to go ahead and get that six-pack, and then for the first 6 months you're snacking away anyway, and then you're not getting off the couch. Okay, now I have half a year, and all these little decisions end up making an impact on your ability to actually achieve your long-term goal. So it might not. So you're right that China has the benefit of being able to plan and strategically even hold back for a presidency or 2 presidencies or even 3 presidencies, but if they keep on taking hits along the way and they're kind of just oozing, they have a bunch of flesh wounds, they're bleeding out slowly, because of different hits on Venezuela and then tariffs and then this from there and that from there.
I get it. But now, and listen, what's the alternative, right? Don't take Venezuela, and they do the same thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's the case.
Right.
I'm saying that America's new bullish position is now on the, and nothing happens on the world's, and you're talking about a country that switches leaders every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
On the world stage, the countries that keep the same leaders for long periods of time that have centralized power in a way you can't fathom. I mean, those countries that changes the geopolitical stage.
Totally.
I mean, the resource they want is a part of an a sovereign nation right off of their coast.
Yeah.
I mean,
not dissimilar from Cuba.
Yeah. I mean, and then you want to a South Korea. Like, I don't know. Listen, I don't know anything about it. But all I know is my whole life I've heard about Taiwan.
Yeah.
And some things kept them back. Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
I guess so. Do you know what? You ever hear of BRICS? I just heard this term today. It's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and S might be Saudi, but I might be wrong. I don't want to say that for sure. Syria, Sudan,
Sand people,
probably. But either way, it's basically the largest countries and superpowers of the world, other than the United States, that are basically pushing back and opposing Western philosophy from conquering and spreading throughout the world. And so, but these powers are not small powers. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and fill in even whatever one you want for the last one. That's a lot for the United States and Europe, because the United States basically supports Europe almost at this point. That's a lot for us to go up against. And so there really is our work cut out for us in the coming years, especially if we continue self-sabotaging and thinking so short term. And we just think about tomorrow. We just think about the midterms and the next election cycle. And you're like, dude, you got to make a decision that's a little bit more.
One of the reasons, I hope I'm getting this right, I'm pretty sure I am, is that you had the constitutional amendments, right? Your inalienable rights. Inalienable rights.
Yeah.
Foreign policy wasn't one of them. I'm pretty sure foreign policy was sourced from the crown or something. Like the idea is like, you don't have a right to dictate foreign policy. And there was an understanding that
who does not have a right?
American? You as a citizen.
Yeah.
That foreign policy, there was two things. There was that, and then there was the practical consideration, which is back in a time when like mail, even now, but for sure then, where mail is, it takes 2 months to get a letter or whatever, that foreign policy decisions couldn't be made at a democratic level, right? You had to have one guy at the top saying, this, and that, because that's the only way you can. So these other nations, they don't have those political human rights to the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things they do have are one guy at the top who can make a decision very effectively in one direction. Mm-hmm. And it might be wrong direction or it might be right. Well, what we have, and this is why there was a great debate that I watched. I'm shocked the guy, one of the top guys from the Chinese government, from the Democratic Republic people, party. He said, they have an analogy he used in English. He's like, your car is four wheels going in different directions. Our car is always in one direction. And then it was funny because his thesis was because all of our people agree and we are unified and we agree. And then like, obviously the guy who was questioning was like, and what do you do with the people who don't agree?
You throw them off a bridge.
Yeah. Exactly. So they just weed out. So that is one of the tools that I think come in the coming. I mean, listen, you sacrifice liberty for it, but it's a practical political consideration you have to make, which is what you're saying, which is every 4 years, your foreign policy shifts. Mm-hmm. We had Biden, we have Trump, and he's like, we need to take over the hemisphere.
Yeah, but you know what? It hasn't shifted in 50 freaking years. It hasn't shifted as far as foreign policy goes. Now, we might have flip-flop back and forth between who we're aligning with and who we're not, and like which groups we're assigning as terrorist groups or which groups we're inviting into the White House or not. No, but our foreign policy, generally speaking, has always continued to be creeping towards expansionism, resources, and we justify it by saying if we don't do it, China or Russia or someone else is going to do it. And what you sacrifice along that way, all those, hypotheticals that you are checking the box that you've conquered, you've sacrificed all your freedoms in the process of actually achieving all that safety and all that expansionism and all that empire building.
Yeah, I think I was saying every 4 years. Yeah, fair enough, because I do think it's
I think that
mostly the same. That is true.
Changes,
that is true.
But what has changed as far as foreign policy is concerned almost since World War II?
Well, I think you do have.
Trump said I'm ending wars. He's just started 2 more.
But people's own personal philosophy could dictate, right? So you had Obama was in office, and he's like, "Listen, let's make a deal with the Iranian government," and that can look a certain way based on one person.
Sure, but then he's bombing Yemen while he's doing it.
Yeah, but
he's bombing Libya while he's doing it, and he's doing these things that were part of the foreign policy agenda.
I'm not saying there's a military industrial complex who has tremendous influence, career politicians and stuff. I'm just saying that there's one guy at the top who could make executive decisions, and that can change on a dime. And especially you might argue that now that someone's gone into office and changed it on a dime, it's not taboo to do so.
Like who?
Trump.
In what sense? What did he change?
Well, he's trying to take over the hemisphere. He's taking Greenland. He's talking about in the news for last year, and now he's officially.
But that's not.
He's
that's
like the next 20
continuation of that same perspective, which is imperialism and continuing to.
You're saying that as meaning, consistent.
Yeah, meaning we had that. That's still you might say, for example, if Obama's focus is on a couple of countries in the Middle East,
I guess fair
and Trump's focus is on Greenland and Venezuela, it's still empire.
Listen, we've tried a bunch of we've tried regime change. Everyone has. That was the whole thing with
the whole conversation, the whole issue that everyone is having with everyone, with us being concerned about the rest of the world, is how many issues we have at home that we aren't dealing with. That's the problem. And I said this before, and I'll say it again because I just read this and it really blew my mind. I don't know if this is true, but it's very easy to imagine this is true. Okay, hypothetically, let's say there's 3 to 5 people that have half the wealth of the United States. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, David/Larry Ellison, the Ellison family, right? And let's say 1 or 2 other people, hypothetically, right? If they make 10% annually on their investments, and then the other half of the country, which is everyone else, right? Other half of the wealth of the country loses 3% and stays equal, right? Or even let's say gains 1% or 2% or 3%. The point is, you can report a positive GDP. You can report that your economy is going strong, and most of the people will not feel it. And that's what's been happening. Trump's been talking nonstop about how great the economy is, but for some reason, everyone does it. Everyone feels like, hey man, you got your a year ago, you had your finger right on the pulse of what everyone wanted, and now it feels like it's so far off.
Well, I mean, that goes to the main point, which I think there's stated preference and actual, right? The whole actual preference, right? You can say you want something, and then what you actually do is different. I think vast majority of people they just want the economy to be good, and
that's all they want. They want to be able to pay their bills. They want to be able to go to the supermarket and buy milk.
All they want, and not to talk down to, or not to. I hate when people are like, "Oh, we understand the Nick Fuentes people, and they just want to be loved, and they just want girlfriends." It's no, or they just want. But there is something to be said that people who are frustrated because they can't pay their bills, they can't do this, can't do that, will just start getting frustrated in different directions. They'll start getting angry at everyone around them. And then you say, we're going to crack down on this and that, on immigration, on this and that, but then nothing's changed. And you're like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Yeah, dude. I told when I'm teaching my 9th grade students, I showed them a video about white supremacists in America. And one of the things that I wanted to really emphasize to them was that that a lot of these people start the same way that everyone else does, which is they're just regular dudes that are working or having a hard time or don't know where to look. And then someone takes the premise of truth, which is the world is hard and life is hard, and in order for you to succeed, you have to take on responsibility in your life. But instead of saying that, they said the world is hard, the life is hard, and it's because of X, Y, and Z. And it's because they came here. It's because he's here. It's because she's there. It's because of the Hispanics or the Jews or the blacks or whatever you want to, or the Indians or whoever you want to call it, right? Like,
well, I mean, you could talk about. So we're all there's tons of white people now, but a lot of people remember when the Irish and the Italians were at war. I have a
the
friend.
Irish
I have a
were
friend who's
always getting beat up, dude.
I
in
have
Europe.
a friend who's Italian.
Yeah.
His grandparents. I remember going to them for one of these holidays. They're talking to his grandfather. Only speaks Italian. Doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
And if you to this day, I don't know if he's still alive. This was it's 5 years, 6 years ago, and he's older. But if you said to him that you were Irish, I mean, he wouldn't talk to you.
Really?
He would get like angry. Like he would be like people forget. Because now it's like, oh, anyone from Europe is okay. You know, we just want people from Europe, right? Just pure golden. It's like
It's going to
you guys
become that
all
way.
hated each other when it was just you guys.
Yeah.
And if you look at history, 1,000 years of history, 1,500 years of history, where all anyone. So it's like,
Well, you think that Jews don't do that either, though? Like, you stick
Yeah,
up with the
absolutely,
Jews.
absolutely.
I think everyone does.
it's just
like,
the
it's
human
tribalism.
condition.
So it's
yeah.
tribalism.
I'm not saying it's good or
Tribalism-
bad. It's just you have to understand how the world works.
Totally. And I actually explained the same thing to the students too. I was like, if you think you're better than that, ask yourself why you make fun of Hasidic people. Or ask yourself why you make fun of non-Orthodox people. If you think that you're so much better that you would never be a racist, or you would never fall for the trap of white supremacy or Nazism or
Those
any
were
kind of...
what were the experiments called? There was a series of social experiments in the 60s and 70s that dealt with that question. They said social science, right? Back when social science was real,
Yeah.
and not just like, can you yell at I saw an article the other day. I sent it to my family. It was especially my cousin who was like, I guess she was like in therapy programs, psychology programs in college, and it was science. A series of scientists determined that pigeons don't like to be screamed at. And it was the funniest. It's like fake social science.
Yeah.
But back when they did social science and realized that if you were a German child in Germany, I mean, the chances that you would be a part of Nazi youth and accept it,
Are you kidding?
I mean, you wouldn't believe how... And what do you do with that information? The idea, what do? You try to, I guess, adjust your moral framework where you get it wrong, and you just
and open yourself up.
no. And what I was going to say before is full circle. Understanding where someone comes from is then you're almost breaking that cycle.
You are breaking. You're not almost breaking. You
and
are.
You don't have to agree.
It.
By the way, I've been talking about there are all sorts of people, whether within Judaism, within other. You don't have to agree with them.
You hear the dude in Rogan? He was on a couple of months ago. This black dude, and he just through being for sure. And we'll take a pee break in a minute.
Yeah.
Just through his literally awesome personality and being a musician, he turned hundreds of white supremacists and Nazis and got them out of the.
Oh my gosh! By the way, he was on again because he was on back. I mean,
So he came back. He came back a couple months ago. Dude.
Wow,
he was awesome.
One of the coolest characters you'll ever see or hear about.
He just wins. He's like, so he'll walk up to a Nazi. And you're like, hey man, why do you? What's up? And he's like, I don't talk to black people. It's like, why not? He goes, you're the root of my problems. It's like, how's that? And he's like, and you can't get. And by the way, it's so funny because aggression requires aggression to exist. It's like fire requires air to exist. Aggression requires that someone else participate, otherwise it goes away.
Yeah, and that's why in road rage, if someone says my bad, you're just stuck there. You're like, fudge. Like I'm trying to yell at your car.
You're mad at your kid. You're mad at your wife. You're mad at your parents, and then or your siblings, and all of a sudden you hear these words, and you don't want to hear them sometimes because you want to be upset.
Of course.
And you're like, nah, you're right. And you're like, God damn. Or if I want to get out of things, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry about that. I messed up. I'm like, well, really? And I'd be like, well, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, and I should have been more thoughtful about that. What are you going to say to that?
Yeah,
you going to fight? Hang on, let's take a quick break.
Spill.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you collect toothpaste? Because there's 4 in your bathroom.
You want to hear what's going to be going on with toothpaste?
Yeah, I do. Dude, I'm in healthy toothpaste. Rachel buys healthy toothpaste.
Don't do it.
Dude, it costs $7. It costs $7
Does it
a thing.
fluoride?
No. Screw fluoride, dude.
Fluoride. Is that fluoride?
Fluoride.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that
makes you retarded. So
Like
that's the stuff
RFK.
that saves your teeth, dude. All you need.
No, you have enough in your water. You don't need more.
No, is it fluoride? What's the
Fluoride makes your
No,
teeth
no, no,
stronger, but too
but-
much of it is bad.
Oh my gosh, they got you.
They got you, dude.
got
Are you
you, bro.
crazy?
Dude, I'm trying to listen. We're talking about understanding. I don't know where the dude.
Okay. By the way, I have
Dude, all you
absolutely
need-
no basis
all
for
you
saying
need
anything I'm
is
saying.
anyone in your family to have a tooth extraction, and you're like, okay, I'll start brushing my teeth correct. No, so for years I brushed my teeth correct. Right, I was like,
What does correctly mean?
exactly what I thought was correct.
What'd you do?
Circles across your teeth, 60 seconds.
Back?
Yeah, of
Behind?
course. Yeah, behind. Of course. Dude,
Yeah.
what is this, amateur? Of
I'm
course.
not,
your
I'm
whole
not
tooth.
sure, dude. You never know
The whole-
people's oral hygiene. Okay?
True. Yeah. So I remember watching somewhere so that was my standard. I remember
Flossing.
watching somewhere flossing was but you just mouthwash.
No, whoa.
I know. See, now
You cannot mouthwash instead of floss.
So I was awoken because all it takes is like someone in your family or like or whatever your extended family to like start telling you like, all right, we had a tooth extraction, which by the way happens as you get older.
Russell had that another week.
Yeah, you get a root canal, and then the root canal.
You know what the
goes
doctor
bad,
said?
and they're like, we got to take out the tooth.
You know what the doctor said?
She said, stop using the hippie toothbrush.
No, they said you're using too much fluoride.
Get the hell down. This guy can go. That's not true. Get out of here.
No, dude.
No. So now,
The toothpaste sucks, dude.
So in the last few years, I learned how to brush your teeth. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about
Let's talk about
the life philosophy we're talking about. You want to talk about that life is not the glamour. The glamour. So it's so funny we mentioned this because it's a perfect example. You want to brush your teeth like circular, your whole teeth, get out all your teeth for 60 seconds, and then rinse your mouth out and feel fresh. That's the real hard work. You ready for this? You're supposed to turn your toothbrush to an angle, do little things on each, and then flick downward, like flick
I don't do
the
the
bad
flick.
stuff off.
You do the flick?
Flick.
I floss. I don't flick.
You flick.
But when you floss often enough, there's not a lot to flick usually.
That's where they get you.
Who they?
The Jews.
Who's they? It's Jews, dude.
No, and then here's the best part. This
Yeah.
is the part that's I'm telling your audience is gonna believe this part. You're supposed to only use a little bit of toothpaste, and you're not supposed to rinse.
No.
You're supposed to just spit a bunch of times.
What?
Yeah, just leave it.
What?
And they say if you're really
Time out.
uncomfortable, if you're really uncomfortable, after 30 minutes you can rinse your mouth.
30 minutes?
Yeah,
my
but wait.
balls strung to the ceiling for 30 minutes. Oh, keep going on, dude.
Dude, isn't that crazy? But that's life. That's the hard stuff you don't want to do. That's the day in, day out, work on your teeth,
Yeah.
floss.
Floss? When you floss, what flick is there?
No. You don't flick with floss.
You can't flick with floss.
You can't flick with. It's like a Seinfeld.
This is a Seinfeld
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
For sure, this is a Seinfeld bit. I was talking to a guy.
Cheers.
Chaim, dude.
Go ahead.
Here's the next Chaim question.
Go for it.
Do you would you rather listen to an hour of Candace or an hour of Nick Fuentes?
Well, it's got to be Nick, just because he's
For sure,
He's just
dude.
that's entertaining.
He's
That's that's obvious because also with Candace, you're just for me, it's like just if nothing's gonna make sense or like I'd rather just be entertained. Like I used to listen to. A lot
I can't listen to her anymore, dude. I tried.
Yeah,
I've been trying recently, and like the big videos and like.
Yeah,
Is that thing going to be off the whole time? Going off? You hear the beep?
what beat? Oh, I stopped listening to that.
Oh, you stopped listening.
You know what that is?
What is that?
That's when I.
Are you
bought
out
the
of
house.
ice?
What?
You out of ice? Is
No.
there an ice machine?
No, that's I don't even know what you're talking about. I've tuned it out after like
You haven't heard any beeps the entire time?
I stopped hearing it.
You know what's crazy?
You know, was it you? Someone I had someone a couple months ago for a meal. And they said
That.
there it is.
What is that? It's been going on the entire time. It's an hour and a half of beeps for my podcast. Yeah.
So by the way, it's funny how the mind could you could tune
Totally.
something out if you hear it enough. But so That is the old security system.
There you go.
And I have tried, but like I don't want to pull it out because I don't want like wires hanging out in my house. But I know where it is. I know where the box is, and
it's coming from that thing.
No. It's that there's a box right there, right. See by the hallway.
Fucking wall.
Then I got kids. I can't have like a wires hanging out. So the answer is,
gonna get the wire. Okay, yeah.
No, I'll tell you what it is. I don't hear.
You don't hear it.
We don't.
I believe you, by the way. You know why I believe you? Because I found out that I say a shit ton in the middle of talking. Every time I'm trying to make a point and there's like a moment of silence, or hesitancy.
And now I might hear it.
I fill it in with and someone pointed out to me, and then ever since I've heard that, I can't stop noticing.
Filler words. Because if someone points it out, you just can't stop.
I'm like, I just did 160 fucking episodes, and they're all, they're all terrible, dude. They all just say every fourth word.
Mark Cuban has his word is, he does it all the time. He goes, right?
Oh,
so he'll say
shit.
He'll say, so AI is the next thing, right? And he'll just and it's now you won't be able to listen to him without hearing it.
They're prompting words.
It's not just it's not
when you're not secure in what you're saying. What?
It doesn't make a joke. It's not just stupid people.
Yeah, it's not. Stupid people like Mark Cuban too.
Exactly.
Dude, his campaign for Kamala made no sense to me, dude.
Why'd he do that?
He had to have a reason. You know what's interesting? He's good at thinking 2 steps down the road, and I'm not. So a lot of times I'll think like of people that are thinking 2 steps down the road, I'll mistake them for being idiots. But this just felt like a really bad it kind of just ruins his credibility. And then he kept on afterwards. Remember afterwards he kept trying to have debates with people about
and he wasn't good at it. Yeah,
he was terrible.
Yeah. Well, it just also that goes to show debating's an art form. I can't remember who. I think one of these internet guys, like why am I good at it? Because I've done it 1,000 times.
That's all
it really
I do.
Goes to show if it's all you do, your idea it's not about the idea. It's just your ability to communicate in that way and organize information in a way that's palatable. Yeah.
This is noise. It's a noise machine that I hear from the radio in his room.
Yeah. This whole time? Dude,
no. I haven't hearing. No. I'm just curious. He sleeps with the noise machine. I was going to ask you some.
This whole time you heard that. Yeah.
What are some dad tips that you picked up throughout the year, dude?
Oh my gosh.
Come on, dude. First year of being a dad, dude.
Having a kid is the best.
It's crazy, though, isn't it?
But what you learn so much. Like I know so much more about
life,
about bringing up kids now. Like everything's fluent. It goes to show learning new skills. You can still do it because you have kids. You learn whole new skills. And I knew what was going to happen about life. I knew that
you knew life was going to change, but you didn't know how.
No, I even knew how. I just used that. You can't possibly. Yeah. It's like going for a workout. It's like I knew. Now I'm in it. What about you?
Dude,
because you have multiple children.
It's been crazy in the sense that I'm experiencing my own evolution of my responsibility and awareness and consciousness, but how I see myself haven't caught up to the way that I behave on a regular basis.
That's a fantastic point. Your internal sense of self.
I still look at myself as a 25-year-old and I'm 30 with 2 kids. Yeah. And I don't look in the mirror and I'm like, what is going on? I don't even like to look in the mirror. It's disconcerting. It really is, dude.
More wrinkles in the forehead.
I'm looking at myself and I'm like, this dude's a 30-year-old. I never thought that I'd get to and not even that I would die beforehand. I just never thought that I would live long. I thought that 30 was so astronomically far away that I'm never gonna get there. And then here I am, and I'm still me, but I still feel like a 24, 25-year-old
product of I think everyone kind of stops around 20. I think it depends on when you feel your sense of self is caught up to but but I think that's a testament to you're living in the moment, right? Like I didn't have that like 30-year-old. I didn't have that like I'm
No?
older epiphany.
You're
And I
gonna
think
turn 30.
I've always kind of like I've just kind of like thought life continues, just health, wealth, happiness, like wealth in a spiritual sense.
Sure. Well,
Um,
physical too is not too bad.
Physical's not bad,
Not bad.
but but it didn't like affect me in that way. But I think I've noticed people who are, I guess, very in the moment in enjoying in that way, and I can do that, but maybe not as easily. Um, Maybe it's different because it's not like that plan ahead thing you were saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Do you feel like you're a very in the moment kind of person? Because you
I
clearly
am in the
plan.
moment.
You have a podcast. You're clearly doing long-term goals, but
I
you
know,
do
but
seem more
I
in
don't
the
have-
moment than some other people, right?
Yeah.
Everything's on the spectrum, right?
Yeah. I don't have, and I've always been bad at this. I've always been terrible at this. I don't have an idea of what I want. Like, if you ask me what an end goal for what my family looks like, I don't know. If you ask me what an end goal for what my career looks like, I don't know. If you ask me for an end goal what this podcast looks like, I don't know. I'm really, I had, for some reason, I have a very, very difficult time.
I felt like distracting you. No. I looked distracted because he was moving around a little bit. Kept looking.
I don't like, if you ask me, how rich do you want to be? I don't have a dollar amount in my mind. I'm like, I don't know, however much money it costs to have 10 kids, and then I'll be like, that's however much money I want.
Nice. Like, it seems like enough money to, because then I have 3 and I go on vacation.
Dude, it's crazy how expensive life gets so quickly. And then,
by the way, to that point, you were talking about struggling, like you see, it's so expensive, and I feel like we're like, I'm sure you're the same thing, where it's you're almost like just over the like assistance from where you do well. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, what do you mean? No, I did notice for myself that I think that and I was talking to my sister about this, and I've talked about this in the podcast once or twice already, but the notion that happiness and the feeling of satisfaction, contentness, and joy with the life that you're living has to almost be inherently separated from the amount of money that you have. Because I think the people that accumulate a lot of money without having a sense of identity or purpose or direction don't know. Look at money as a substitute for those things.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'd rather have this stuff. I'd rather learn how to speak to my kid and love my kid and not have a ton of money right now than have a ton of money, and that makes me immediately not relatable to my kid because my kid knows nothing about shit and he should just listen to what his old man has to say, and like.
So my question is, because I feel the same way, and a lot of people I think don't, not in a bad way. I think they just listen. Human nature is to need and want resources to survive.
Totally.
Like, what can we find? What, I got to read a book to my kid? Like, what? Like, come on. Like, I'm saying, like, I'm not talking.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm not talking to them. And so, I wonder what the difference maker is there. I don't know if one's right or wrong, or maybe we have the luxury of never having to have worried about being homeless, right? I don't think you and I have ever had to seriously contemplate the idea of, just because
never.
Because we're fortunate enough to have been in a like we talked about, a culture, a society, we're a part of a larger thing.
What is on my mind is selling my house and moving to a cheaper community. That is in my a place where I can get more bang for my buck for my house. If I can make $300,000-$400,000 on my house in the next 5 years,
North Carolina,
and I go to Tennessee or North Carolina or something like that, and I can buy a house where right now I just put up a bunk bed in Shua's room. So let's say I can fit 2-3 kids in that room. And it might be fun for a couple of years. You don't want 3 teenagers living in a 20.
It's not a nice
in a one bedroom.
It could be done.
It could be done. It really could be done. But I don't know if I want to. like the question becomes for what? And the question becomes why? And if the answer is because we've been living here until now, so that's why, that's a stupid freaking answer.
I don't think that's a good enough reason.
For sure not.
I think if you have a particular affinity to our community or if you have family. But if neither of those things, beat out that. But my point before was just more the ability to prioritize joy and the moment, because once it's gone, right? Like that whole.
But think about this. Think of how many people make enough money to afford to. Let's say they're making, throw out a number, $200,000+ a year. The amount of time that you have to work to make the type of job, the amount of time you have to work to make upwards of $200,000 a year. And that part of that $200,000 generally includes help or a nanny or cleaning lady or something like that.
Yeah.
And now you say, how much money would you give up to watch your 2-year-old son take his first steps?
To be there in their lives. Yeah.
To be there in their lives. And then say, you know what? How much would you rather wash dishes and work from home or be in an office for 15 hours a day? So let's say you make $120,000 as opposed to $250,000, but you're not paying for a nanny, you're not having a cleaning lady come, and instead you're actually taking the time to spend time with your kids, watch them grow up. And you know what? If you have to do more work around your house, and if your toilet breaks, you go to Home Depot and you buy a $2 pedal replacement instead of paying a plumber $75 to come to the house and fix it for the same cost. And you say, you know what, I'm going to look for ways, instead of eating out, we'll make pizza, we'll make date nights, we'll do particular things, but at least I'll get to participate in the development and growth of my family and experience what my kids are like, how they're growing up and how they're participating in the world, and what lessons are shaping them and what values are shaping them. And you're gone for the whole thing. You're in an office to make $250,000, $350,000, $500,000 a year. And you know what? Someone else is raising your kids. Guess what? Take that stupid money, man. Take the money, take the job. This is my family. This is the future of the world. This is my genes. I have to make sure that they're doing the right things.
It's not only, it's so true. It's very hard, I think, for a lot of people. I remember reading an article about a CEO who did that. He was at the top of his, again, one of these articles, he was at the top of his game, and his 9-year-old daughter said to him, and I remember at the time I understood it, but now it's so much more emotionally relatable than it was to a 15-year-old.
Totally, by the way. And you think you get it as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, you think you get it, and he was worth a bunch. Obviously, he's a CEO, so of a major company, and he leaves his job to be there with his daughter. And the comment section was like, "Wow, good for him." And it's now you sit there and you think this was this guy's whole framework. Yeah. His framework was I'm sure his value was associated with wealth because he had enough money. Yeah. Right. You're talking about this guy could have bought probably 3 yachts and not shed a tear and retire. Right. But his whole framework was that. And then, his daughter says to him, I guess obviously something enough that he just leaves, just stops. And that's an even more dramatic version of what you're saying. And it's so
and because you know what, in a certain sense, it's really harder. In a certain sense, dude, kids are so unpredictable and they're not rational. So they keep you on your toes as to how you have to be able to respond to the most irrational requests and behaviors that you can think of. There's no linear behavior pattern necessarily with kids. And I mean, anyone that thinks they have it worked out, we always,
absolutely,
we find out that there's more and more that we're always learning. So you know what, even if we get a general, but I think a lot of guys don't know what to do. They wouldn't know what to do if it was 6 o'clock at night and they had 3 kids crying and all of them had to take baths and then your wife's trying to make dinner and then you're thrown in there and it's your job to make everything calm down. Guys are like, dude, get me to the office. Get me to my desk. Get my boss screaming at me right now because
that's what a lot of guys did and grew up. Listen, my father, but I was fortunate enough, and I said before, my father, obviously, I think he was a very balanced individual. But he happened to have a niche enough where he could be an entrepreneurial individual and be there for his kids. And he was at every single one of my football games. He was at, I can't, it was only until I was an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, I was well into adulthood before he decided to do like I'll go away and I'll see, the business trip. I mean, he would do trips. But here's the crazy part. The trips he used to do when we were kids, he would bring each kid would go on a trip by himself.
With your dad?
With my dad.
That's so great.
So I remember the handful of times I went on a trip special with my... So listen, was he threading a needle? I don't think that opportunity exists for everyone. Do I think that there's a way for me to attain that? I would hope. And that's what I'm working towards. I don't think I'm working towards working to your point.
Yeah.
But almost, I guess, best of both worlds.
But you have that beautiful opportunity where I go for my 11 o'clock in the afternoon jog and I see you on your walk with your kid.
I work from home.
Yeah, exactly. But you get to be there to watch your kid grow up. And I just, the same way that I think the world would be a better place if more people looked at themselves like teachers and the people around them like students, I think the world would be a much better place if people looked at family not as like a dead weight that holds you back, but an opportunity to really, truly extend. And, it's also fun. And we could wrap up soon. A couple minutes.
No, we're good. I mean, sure.
Yeah.
I was looking at my phone to see if my wife.
I was talking to my students because again in Dead Poet Society, the main character, his dad is not wealthy relative to other kids in the school, and he says he keeps on saying that the movie, and you don't really know what he's referring to, but you understand that he sacrificed a lot to have his kid attend this top tier private school, and it's very clear that the kid is the father is expecting his son to fulfill his dreams. And there was a life that I wanted to live that I couldn't live, and you are going to live it for me whether you like it or not. And that mentality exists with teachers, that mentality exists with parents, and it's, by the way, it's totally natural. I mean, these are genes. These are your kids. If you're not working for the best life that you could possibly provide them, what are you working for? On the other hand, you're not giving them any input into anything that they do. You're
not letting them be them, or you're not. I think that's the whole thing. You're trying to be like, I'm going to be a Frame 2.0. This kid's going to be me without all the bugs.
Yeah.
I'm going to take all the bugs out. And it's a terrible way to raise a kid. I don't know if there's a right way, and we're gonna all be raising kids with AI. I mean, in the world, it's gonna be I think it's.
Dude, I'm not gonna give my kid a smartphone for a long time.
But then you have the challenge of trying to. I mean, then your kid's gonna be the Amish kid. He's gonna be the kid that doesn't know how to interact with the world.
No.
So what are you supposed to do?
I think that that's the value of community. I think that there's a real value. I think that there's going to be in the world that we're in the community that we're in, that there's going to be enough people that interact on a regular basis without that, that have similar values, that there's going to be this kind of isolated pocket of community that even if the kid might be one of the few in his class, hypothetically, that does not have a phone, even though I plan to probably send him to more religious school anyway. But even if not, the people that his friends and the world that he grows up in is not going to revolve around that. And I also hope to really be transparent. I think that I think that one thing that my parents didn't do as much, which I really could have probably benefited from, even though I understand. And as I got older, because as things happen, you're like, I'm kind of glad I'm not having this conversation with my parents, like figuring out what this is. On the other hand, I really would have liked some kind of heads up as to what's going on, and they didn't even know what was going on. When I was 14, I had to go to my mom and tell her to put a block on my phone. She didn't think to do that by herself. She had no idea what I was able to access on my phone, and I had such a strong sense of Jewish guilt that I couldn't whatever. without feeling
Kosher
bad about
yourself.
it. Yeah, I seriously did, but that is
that Catholic.
that's right. But I also think that shows what instilling values. Like my mom didn't know that porn was accessible for a 14-year-old on a smartphone to like go in a private browser and go to Google or download an app because the private browser was blocked or whatever. And like she didn't know that, but she instilled me with enough values to say, even when I figure out a way to do it, it doesn't sit right with me. It's not the thing I want to be doing with myself and with my time. So
that comes back to I think the point about creating a moral framework where if there are pockets of if for some reason you find yourself with an excessive amount of individuality
mm-hmm.
and you're sitting there thinking, I have all this freedom, but I'm just scrolling through an app that's meant to tap into the lizard part of my brain and drain me of my dopamine because I'm just searching, and then I'm at the end of an hour and I'm like, fuck. If you're sitting there and doing that, and you were fortunate enough to have people who I guess did the hard work and said, hey, listen, here's a framework that when you came in contact with that obstacle, you're able to say, hey, listen, this isn't good for me. This is too much access to an external pleasure that I don't want to interact.
So you think that having you and that you guys generally being around for your kid will be more likely to reinforce that very healthy,
absolute
moral compass?
It's why I'm not listen, hopefully, right? I'm able to, my work doesn't take me so far away from being able to raise my kids actively. Mm-hmm. But for sure, Debbie, hopefully. Of course. I absolutely think that one of the reasons is like everyone's like, which school to send kids to? And I think the school matters. And this may be because the way I was raised. I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
So it may be that I feel this on a different level than other people. But my interaction with Judaism, my interaction with society, I mean, all of those things were from the home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like because there's two ways to do it. There's the fear of the outside world, which is absolutely the case. Most homeschoolers from back in the early 2000s. Today it's different because of social media. But back in the early 2000s, if you were homeschooled, a lot of those parents were Christian or evangelical, like very ultra, like we don't believe in the public school system, the devil's work.
So is that what it was?
Absolutely. So all of those kids were, not all of them, I'm not gonna say, but a lot of those kids were just very, you could see, very bogged down with the narrative they were given. I was given a very creative narrative and a very
and it reflects the way that you think.
I thought of my life like Little House on the Prairie. Mm-hmm. It was I really enjoyed my upbringing tremendously, and it gave me a framework. And so I do think at home you can communicate a framework so that if a kid is in school or interacting with society and they're like, well, listen, this doesn't sit with me the way I want it to. You can be the glue. You know what I mean? Like you have more control over what happens to your kid than I think people may realize.
And the less of a stranger you are to your kid, the more your kid can communicate with you. And the biggest problem that happens with so many people is that they feel like their parents cannot and will not or do not hear them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's intentional or not. My dad does not hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. He hears the words. He does not put them together and process them. He doesn't get me. And you know what? I'll talk to someone else. And
that's
on
tough.
one hand, on one hand,
I'm curious. Did you have someone else coming up? Not that he wasn't there for you. I'm saying
my dad was always a little bit more aloof emotionally, but always very dependable in almost every other way.
I'm not saying your dad. That's my point. I'm not trying to suggest your dad wasn't reliable.
My mom was excellent emotionally, and so I always had a combination of fallouts. Like there are times where my mom would be far too rational I'm in your house, dude. Oh man. Yeah. In case that part got cut off, but either way, my dad was more supportive in most other ways other than emotional depth, and like he would always support you. He'd always come to you for things. He would always he would participate with you. He was very participatory, but my mom was real. Like you talk to her about dating, you talk to her about feeling like your teacher hated you and you felt like you were an idiot at school, and you could talk to her about the more real and secure aspects of life. And sure, by the way, I think it's good that each parent kind of takes on different responsibility. That you can look at one for one thing and the other for the other thing, and everyone kind of has their roles.
Absolutely,
I think that's a great thing. But there was just. And again, and to keep going back to this movie, I guess because it's on my mind so strongly, but the Dead Poet Society, where the entire time the main character can't look at his dad like he could talk to him, and he could talk to Robin Williams, and he could talk to a teacher that makes his, and you could see that the dad has his own pain, and the dad had his own problem. And there's just like this terrible cycle of aloofness and not relatability from father to son, where the relatability is so necessary because a kid is looking how to navigate the adult world from the only role model that he knows, which is his dad. And it's so it's so sad when that's not the case. And not to say you can't get out of it, not to say you can't make a life, but you know what? It does fucking suck. It does suck.
Sucks, and it's harder, and it doesn't feel as good. It's not as colorful. And I'll say I think I handled things. It was more of an internal dialogue, but I had my twin brother, who is to this day if not one of obviously my spouse and everything, but I'm very, very close with my father, my parents, it's even if you don't utilize it, having that connection with people, that they're always there if you need to, is also it works under
and to know that you can do it
under the hood.
Yeah,
because that's what expands your world from an internal dialogue to the option of this kind of like vibrating universe around you, right? If you sit there and you have an issue, you may deal with it on your own, but the just kind of knowing subconsciously that if you couldn't handle that issue, which we all, sometimes it's just too much and you have to kind of like search outside your own head, that there's all these different paths to handle that. And to think that there's,
so we don't have to go down this.
That's all. Yeah, fair enough.
We don't have to go down this whole if you don't want to. But what do you think do you think there's a value, but you don't think there's a value to loneliness, and like the feeling of like,
I would say value. So like value, I think
I happen to have a couple of stretch of years of my life where I really felt like there was no one that could relate to me in my head.
Yeah.
Me. They couldn't relate to me, to my to what spoke to me, to what I was looking for, to what I found meaningful. And it was profoundly lonely, but it also helped me build and recognize my own identity.
So I'm not saying it, just you kind of said the answer, I think. And that I was going to say this anyway, which is I think if the loneliness produces it kind of lets you develop your internal monologue, I think then you're sitting there developing your internal monologue, which I relate to. I have an internal monologue. I think a lot of people have it, and it's a rich sense of self. I think you use God. I think there's a lot of ways. I think it plugs into God a little bit. I think if it's not that, I don't. I just think I'm not only destructive, but it's so antithetical to the human condition. Yeah. And to the point where
that's a great point.
Where it's used as punishment.
The craziest,
isolation. Sure. So it's so funny because it's so incredible at a certain point.
Yeah.
You're sitting there like, fuck, it's just me, that's where, and then then a lot of people get,
or you could be one of the quote unquote lonely people that's one of the powerful people. And you feel like you don't play the same game as everyone else.
Yeah,
you're like a different level of humanity.
It's lonely at the top of whatever that is.
Too.
Yeah, And listen, you might get stuff done. I'm not saying there aren't leaders that
Yeah.
provide themselves at the top. But I guess, what are you measuring it at? If you're measuring it at quality of life and overall health, you know what that is? That's like saying cigarettes. You know what? That's a great example.
Love cigarettes.
Because cigarettes are very helpful with short-term memory, right? They improve short-term memory. They improve short-term anxiety. It's a short-term.
Mm-hmm.
So there are medicinal applications to cigarettes. But they're also incredibly addictive. And so you know, you want to say, listen, there's leaders at the top that were finance bros and they got to the top and they're improving life because someone's got to be the ruthless sociopathic leader. Okay. But I think it's much like a cigarette, like there's benefits to everything. Anyway,
what do you think of do you ever listen to Modern Wisdom, the podcast with Chris Williamson?
No.
Dude,
Good.
I'm gonna send you one of his episodes. This dude is like every corporate frat bro catchword put into a podcast.
You ever see this?
He feels like a dude that went to that was like a Delta Chi or like some crazy frat when he was in college, and then like got a job at like human resources and learned all the corporate doublespeak, and then just like made a podcast.
Mix of everything.
Dude. And it's funny because he has incredible guests. He just had Huberman on for 3 hours the other day.
Oh, he's dialed in. All right,
dude. He's dialed. He's got I think 4 million subscribers on YouTube. He's a big deal. But he just man. It drives me nuts. Like every other word he speaks is like the dynamic between the flow and the arrangement of the composition, and I'm like, you just sound like a douchebag, dude. Like what are you saying? Just use the word dude. Just use the word.
Just talk to me.
Just really gotta understand what's going on. That's all you gotta say. Yeah, man.
All right,
dude.
Hey,
you ready to wrap up? Think that was fun?
That was fun.
Want to give some real-time feedback for the audience to listen to your thoughts on the conversation?
Real-time feedback?
Real-time feedback.
Tell me, what am I supposed to do?
How do you feel about the last hour and a half of our conversation?
Oh, I feel it was good. And if you're listening at this point, then obviously you thought so too.
That's a win. All right, dude. Thank you for doing this. Catch you on the flip.